Why do we have habits of people pleasing? And why do you have habits of people pleasing? And I would question what that is. Before that I knew about the people pleasing, I didn't know what that was. I thought, it's just something related to people. And I didn't quite understand what is people pleasing? What does that even mean? So I was sitting there thinking and going around what that means, and I just knew that it had something to do with people, but I didn't quite know that it's a tendency, a thing that we do that we are not aware of. Sometimes even unconsciously or subconsciously, that we do something and we're like, oh, I did that because of this, or I did that because I was trying to get validation from other people. And so, I was just sitting here and thinking, what would I really be talking about today in this video? And the first thing that struck was the people pleasing, because recognizing and knowing it's something that I do in my life, and it's something that I become aware of. Like when I'm in that stage of pleasing and saying things that I don't really mean, I catch myself like, I know that I'm doing this because I'm trying to control the environment, trying to control how people respond, trying to control how people react. And it's not really something that's sustainable. It's not something that will go with your life and you'll feel good or pleased. And when there's times when you said things that you didn't truly mean, and you come back home and you're like, why the heck did I say that? And why did I behave in a certain way? Why was it that I was trying to prove myself that I'm right, or prove myself that I'm this way, but I'm really not that way? And there's many reasons we do that. First reason, and the main one, is that we're trying to control the environment and we want to be liked by everybody else. But the fact is that you cannot be liked by every single person in the room. There's going to be people where they're going to disagree with you. They're not going to understand who you are. They're not going to respond the way that you want them to respond. And they'll just show you bits of them. And you're also likely that person that you maybe feel comfortable after a few minutes, or maybe after your first outing with that person or first group meeting, but you won't really feel it in that moment when you are in contact with that person, or when you're, around people. And so now I would sit there and question, like, why did I say that? And I would beat myself up and have this moments of sabotage and moments of criticism, moments of judgment. And honestly, when I'm sitting there and judging myself, it's not benefiting anybody, including myself. So think about a time in your life where you're trying to please, you're trying to pretend like this person, but you're not quite that person, but you just want to be loved, you want to fit in, you want to feel safe in that group. But quite literally, it's hard because you are in pretense, you are pretending, you are putting up a front, you're putting up different, masks to be liked. I started to notice the shift when I was doing that and having that tendency. I would then ask myself, where is that coming from? Or why is it that it's not safe for me right now to express myself? And that begins with an internal dialogue and inner sensations. Now, what do I mean by inner sensations? If a thought comes up and if a feeling is attached to that thought, which one am I following? Am I following the thought, or am I following the feeling, the sensation, the emotion? Emotion is energy in motion. I don't know if you've heard that phrase, but it's quite powerful once you understand it. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm starting to feel like I'm in this constant cycle and loop of overthinking. which meant that I was in my head, that I was having thoughts. And all I was listening to and surrendering to was a thought. My feelings on the other side, it's feeling anxious, just for example. I'm anxious and I don't know how to express that. So what I tend to do, my muscles are tight. I, retreat, and I don't want to be in the presence of people. I just want to be by myself. I isolate. These are all common symptoms, right? So with that being said, when I'm not following the route of the emotions and respecting what I was feeling, I was then retreating and going back in my head, being like, okay, I think this emotion doesn't matter. Or then I'm like sitting there and I'm intellectualizing and then trying to understand that feeling, trying to make sense of it, trying to escape and whatever. When you're in that cage, when you're in your head, there's just solutions there. Sometimes those solutions are not absolutely perfect. Sometimes those solutions don't lead us to liberation. It quite doesn't. It actually takes us to the next route of just being in your head and thinking and isolating in that space, thinking that this is the only place that you can escape your current reality. So I began exploring this idea, exploring the idea of, okay, what does it feel like if I brought a little bit of attention, a little bit of awareness to that emotion, to the sensations I was feeling? If I felt tightness down my, abdominal area or on my chest, I would bring all my attention towards that space so that I get out of my head and pressurize myself, take myself out of the pressure of understanding it, to then in my body. That's where the space happens and the healing, and also your journey to compassion, right? You do not need to understand the emotion. The whole purpose of getting into the body is to just feel. Get in touch with the sensations. Get in touch with the feelings. Because most of the time, you may realize this or not, it's when you are forming a disconnection between your head and all the way to the bottom is when you feel disconnected, when you feel like nothing is making sense. And then you begin to feel anxious. You begin to intellectualize, make sense of what is going on, this and that, and thought, and who said what, and things from the past started to come up. But then once you break that pattern of the disconnect, once you become in touch with those sensations, with what's going on below your head, below your intellectual, you can understand what's going on and feel it instead of trying to battle with the sensation, instead of trying to battle with the thought. Because the more you're trying to fight with the thought, there's no conclusion and there's no resolution. Because what you're trying to do is, A, you're in your head a lot trying to understand what happened. B, you're trying to fix. And C, you are in resistance of what happened. And you know what happens when you're in resistance? You become enemy of your current reality. And you become the enemy of the present moment. And you see, while it's all connected, and saying that I'm perfect, that I still experience this in my life, but the more that I'm discovering this and learning about it, whether it's Eckhart Tolle, he's like the master of like being in the present, and just an amazing author and spiritual teacher that I like to go back and forth through his teachings when I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling like I'm overthinking every single thing. And then you get into comparison, and then self-criticism. And then you start to think of your past and all the things that you did wrong in your past. So you see, it's a vicious cycle. It is never ending. And that way to break out of it is to connect. We go from disconnect to connection. And you can think of it like you're connecting with another human being. You know, you're like connecting with a friend or someone, and you're sitting there and you're like criticizing or maybe even judging every single detail about that person. Like you're sitting there like, oh, why do they sound like this? Or oh, why do they look like that? And you begin to see that you are pinpointing and looking at things that don't make sense in the moment, but because you just nitpicking every single thing and looking and being in this heightened state of anxiety of, I want to feel safe, so I'm going to look for all the things and triggers so I can be aware of it to pull myself out of it, or before that I am thrown off just out of nowhere, and then I wouldn't know how to deal with it and control. So be mindful of those. Be mindful of when is a thought and when is reality reality. Because sometimes when we try to make sense of something, we're losing touch of who we are. We're losing touch of the person that we are. We're losing touch from the reality that is happening. And that becomes all a kind of vicious cycle, another cycle of thoughts and anxious and feeling depressed. And, you know, all those thoughts actually come, or the depression and the feelings of I don't feel safe, or I have nothing to offer, or this person doesn't like me, or why this person didn't text me, and it's continuous. So you either choose to follow that route of thought, or you can just sit there and observe it. Just sit there and see, well, what is it trying to, where is it going? Just become curious and be an observant of it. And that's what we don't quite learn, is that we become consumers of the thoughts instead of being just an observant of it, just to sit there and watch, like, what is it? Where is it going? So begin to think of it that way. And on the topic of people pleasing that I start with is, you can please all your life, and no one's going to come and save you and take you out of that pool of pleasing. And the more that you're doing it, the more people will actually get used to you pleasing all the time, so they wouldn't really understand your boundaries. They wouldn't know how to even communicate with you, because they would say this person is always a yes person, or this person never speaks up. Or if I did something to that person, they wouldn't say anything. So it's the power of using your voice and your truth. And I say this mostly about us women, that we tend to be scared of just saying whatever comes up in our mind, because we are scared of rejection, and we're scared of someone abandoning us or not being able to fit in. But if you want to really fit into an environment, would you rather fit in with actual people that really love and support you, or be fitting with people who are just there because of the things you bring to the table? So it's your battle to choose, and it's your responsibility to see and express, and if people are not resonating, then it's not on you to fix it or try to change it or say anything, because it's really not on you to do that. And what's within your control is the sphere in front of you. So imagine that you have a sphere of bubble here. Like, you can even imagine it like a color or a shape. It could be a square, it could be a circle, whatever. So imagine that the thing around you, the sphere or the bubble, that's your own little area, right? That's your area where once someone steps in, and when you cannot really see that that person is maybe harming or that person is manipulating, you can just be there and observe their own behaviors, and then you can choose to either respond or just step back because that bubble is around you anyway, so nothing can happen to you unless you give the space to the person to get in and just say whatever they want, which is something that happens because of lack of boundaries, that you're not able to communicate that this is acceptable and this is not what acceptable. So if you continue with that pattern, if you continue to let them, then you're probably going to be in the ocean, like swimming with no direction. And that's why people don't have that directions, because they don't know what they want. They don't know what is acceptable for them. They don't know their worth and how much they're, willing to accept and not accept. So that's on you to decide which path you want to take and how do you want to continue your connections and your life moving forward. Again, it's a step ahead than being like unwary and you cannot really figure what the next steps are. So yeah, without further ado, that's really it that I've wanted to share. And also just be gentle and kind to yourself, because this is not a journey of healing of 1 month or 1 week. It actually takes time to get to a level where you're like, okay, I'm certain in who I am, and these are things that I am willing to accept, and these are things that I'm not willing to accept in any condition. And that there is your boundary, that there is your ability to respect yourself. And you must respect yourself for that, because people might not really know that. They don't know how to maybe even speak to you, but you show them how you want to be spoken to. And it's nobody's responsibility but yours. We tend to always blame people for not receiving, for not getting the behavior we deserve. But it's really, what are you accepting? And what are you not willing to accept is the $1,000,000 question. And from there onwards, they would be able to see your personality and they would understand, okay, this person would get mad and angry if I did that, or if I said something rude. Or this person won't say anything, so might as well just, behave in whatever way I want. And it's not even respectful. So you choose how to be treated, and nobody can show you how to be treated but in yourself, to understand. So yeah, that is it, and I hope this was helpful. Let me know in the comments what you think is your biggest takeaway, and how are you gonna use this in your life to reflect on your relationships, and mostly relationships, and in your workplace, your colleagues, and what do you choose to be consistent with for yourself in regards to that, and not for anyone else, but you're doing all this, just this journey, because you want to get better and you want to improve, which is an important step with in getting better and healing. So take care, everyone. I'll see you in the next video.